And now here's part 2 of our episode. Johnny Greenwood coming in with his hot strings. That's our guy right there. He does that so well.
There's and at the beginning too, there's like this. And I know you said it's like sounds like all one instrument. I think like a lot of this is actually on guitar. Like at the very, very beginning, there's like a strumming that's happening that is just so. There's so many effects put on it that it doesn't even. I mean, it sounds almost like a guitar like underwater in the other room in a dream.
Yo, Michael, I was literally just talking to my boyfriend about this, and he was saying, like, the whole album seems like it's underwater. And I was like, yeah, I know what you mean. I was like, underwater, and we're like dreaming, and like colors everywhere. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. You just made me so happy.
100%.
Oh, yeah. I'm just, because another thing that sort of, again, because we listened to that podcast that gave us all sorts of information about this, and you talk about, he's saying about I'm not brave. Like this album also came out after, I mean, he went through a lot of personal stuff. Something I didn't mention in the intro that I sort of alluded to was the idea that some people were stealing money from him. His sexuality has also been questioned, and he's sort of he's actually never come out and said a specific label, and he's very resistant to labels, in fact, which is something I can appreciate. But I think like the person in this podcast was speculating that maybe he was saying that in a way of being like, I know that I've come out in some ways, but don't expect me to be like a hero for the LGBTQ community. Like I'm here, but I'm not gonna like I wasn't told to carry the flag, right? Like
yeah,
yeah.
No, I feel like I felt that when I first listened to it, especially the whole "I'm not brave," and there was another line, "I'm living in the idea of another man's mind." Yeah. So I was all like, oh, maybe that's him pushing aside his sexuality, and it's like, okay, I'll just have kids in a nice house, and I'll just live this normal American life, and just like put aside all of my like wants and feelings because y'all can't handle that.
Do you, I mean, with your love for Frank Ocean, does it extend into like outside the music too? Because I know that he's made some notable appearances at various fashion shows and on red carpets and whatnot. And also, I mean, before he released this album, there was a whole visual album, which I must confess I have not been able to see because I don't have Apple Music.
Okay.
But do you like dive into that with this artist? Have you that level of fandom?
The level of fandom I'm usually at is I'll just listen to the album over and over and over again. I'll see if they have other albums. I'll look at their videos. I won't actually follow the person because I do like keeping artists at a bay because I'm like, they're people. They want their privacy. They probably don't want everybody to know everything about them. And I'm not like one of those people who's like, oh, I need to know what day he was born and what time he was born and what was his mom eating while she was delivering him. Like it's just like some stuff I just want to keep, a little away. Like it's nice to have some mystery about people that you kind of not look up to but admire.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's no expectation for that anymore at all. I think we're programmed to want to, at least maybe you can say this in our, in American culture with celebrities, we're programmed to want to know more information about, every little thing we can about them. So that's a very conscious, I think that's a very important conscious thing to do if you want to experience their art in a particular way.
Yeah. Yeah. And some artists, I remember I didn't know what they looked like until somebody else showed me because I wasn't worried about how they looked. I just wanted the genius that is them on like the track or the book or whatever their facet was.
Right.
I will give you a little bit of information though, because I do know when his birthday is because he and I share a birthday. Both
Scorpio?
October 28th.
I was going to say Scorpio. Okay.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay.
Now that I should have known he was a Scorpio. I should have known.
It makes so much sense.
It does. It does.
Wait, what sign are you, Kishia?
I'm a Sagittarius.
So am I.
Hey, when is your birthday?
November 23rd.
Hey, okay, December 1st.
December 1st. Okay.
So you're like on the cusp.
And I have a Scorpio moon too.
Oh yeah, I was about to say you're like right there.
I have so many Scorpio. We just interviewed one of our brother Scorpios last week, and then obviously Michael's another manifestation of that in my life. Love them, love those Scorpios.
Oh, yes,
I will take that. I am the Scorpio manifestation
incarnate.
Yes, put that on a shirt, please.
So at this point in the podcast, we usually turn to like defining what perfection means for you. So when you were choosing albums, because you did choose some others, one of which we will be covering this season, as I have told you. And I'm just wondering, like, when you were coming up with your list, what are the things that you look for in an album when deeming it perfect?
So some of this stuff I said, I want to be able to put it on when I'm doing anything, and it just flows in with my surroundings. And it makes me want to really listen, but not just to the words, but to everything that the album is. What else? It puts me in a place of memories, new and old, like nostalgia a little. And it just makes me feel all around whole and good, or something. It makes me have memories that I never knew I had. I know that's weird to say, but it when I find that albums do that, I'm like, oh, this is a keeper. This is a good one.
Oh, you got to get some points for that memory line. We'll say 25 points for memory, all alone in the moonlight.
No, I mean, that makes sense to me, like talking about memories you didn't know you had, because I mean, you talked about with Siegfried, like the fact that it's sort of a song that makes you see color in some ways.
Yeah.
Is this, does an album do you have to like every single track on the album for it to be perfect?
That's a good, okay. No, I do not. I don't have to like every single thing. But I can't despise it. I can't be all like I can't be grooving and all of a sudden want to flip my phone or my laptop or anything. I could just be like, okay, I guess I see what you were doing there. I'll skip. But it can still be like a perfect album.
So it skips. So you permit skips with an asterisk. Basically.
Yes. I like that. I'm gonna give you some points for that one. 20 for that.
You're the first person that must ever give us more points.
What? You deserve all of them. Okay.
Are there any skips on this album for you? Any?
That's the question.
Any tracks that you jump over?
So it took a long time for me to know that the last song was as long as it is. I didn't know that. Yeah. So like when it was like, when he was done, like just, I guess he was just like talking about things like that the last, the last song is just him talking and going off and everything. And when it was off, I was like, okay, cool. And then one day I just left it up on my Spotify and I went in the kitchen. And then I heard somebody talking on, like in the other room. I'm like, who is in my house? And so I go in the other room and I'm like, oh, it's still playing. It was like an interview. And like, I listened for a little bit and I was all like, okay. So like, I don't really listen to like the end of this album.
That's Futura Free, right?
Yeah, Futura Free.
Okay. Yeah, apparently that's those kids. It's like a skate crew from North Hollywood. Out here, I am in Los Angeles, and it is. It's a skate crew from North Hollywood, and that was some interview that he had found somewhere. It's fascinating.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. Because I think at first I sort of thought that maybe it didn't have that strong of an ending. This album. That was kind of like upon re-listening in preparation for this. I was like, well, does it end kind of weakly? And then this was a moment in which Michael told me, then go listen to that podcast and get the context around all of it. Because I feel like there's a lot of layers to the end of the album, but it demands your attention. It demands it demands you to really like be present be present with it, because otherwise, if it's just in the background, it's so soft and sort of obscured, that you can miss it. You can miss it just like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that's how I felt like when. Now I do want to go back and listen to. I know I listened to it at one point, but it didn't stick with me. Now I do want to like go back and listen to the whole interview with these skater bros. Now that I know what that is.
Yeah, and we'll give you the link to that one podcast, because there's another. I mean, I mentioned at the beginning about like the duality of human existence. I know that sounds like, you know, philosophy 101 or like something. It's like sort of like a big,
very existential.
Very
I feel
existential.
Like this whole album is existential.
Well, because this guy has this theory that the album is in two very clear parts, and that there is. And I'm not taking credit for having done this research. Cole Kuchna of Dissect has done this research, listeners, just so you're aware. But in the song Nights, the middle of the song Nights, there's a beat change that falls exactly halfway through the album. And then all the sound after that feels like it's part of sort of a different world.
And that is so true. And Nights is another one of my favorite. I love all the songs, but like Nights, yes, I love that beat change. It reminded me of Pyramids that's on Channel Orange, because they all have that switch. And oh wow, now I have to now I have to go back and listen to it.
There's all this work that's happening that we can barely even perceive. But it seems to be inherently affecting our experience, because like I never would have known any of that stuff just upon listening to it.
Yeah, same. Like I didn't get that just listening to it and knowing that it was like halfway mark, and like everything else was just kind of on the same flow after that. But I like had that feeling like when it first starts off with Nikes, it's like a bottom beat and you're just like kind of flowing into it. And then there's like other songs. And then when we get to Nights and it switches, it does stay on that same accord. And I do stay in like that same mood and vibe. Those are my two words that I use a lot, just letting you know, is mood and vibe.
We talked about you talked about the experience of the anticipation of the album coming out once it was announced, and like you could feel the excitement. You could feel the excitement in other people around you. Do you feel like the popularity of this album and the sort of universal acclaim about it? I haven't seen much, any poor criticism of this. Not that it's neither here nor there. But do you feel like the enduring popularity of it is something that you believe contributes to its perfection?
No, I don't.
No?
Because I think Frank Ocean does things, like I said before, for it to be, for him, for it to say something about him, for it not to be garbage, of course. And I don't feel like if people didn't listen to it, it wouldn't be as good as it is, because I know there's a bunch of music out there that I haven't listened to. That is amazing. I just haven't discovered it yet. But just because my ears haven't been graced by the sounds of it doesn't like cut it in half, or like, I don't know, it doesn't make it not good.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And it makes you think about like all the people playing Hamlet somewhere in like, Nebraska. Somebody's killing it playing Hamlet in Nebraska.
Yeah, right.
And you just know that only a couple, maybe 100 people are going to see it, some small town somewhere. But somebody just gave the best performance of Hamlet somewhere, and the world will never see it, and that doesn't take away from its perfection.
Exactly. I will say that even people listening to it doesn't make it a great album. Like sharing it and like seeing how much it was like pushed up and like was like just anticipated, it does like give it a little bit of a push out there so other people can hear it, so it can just stay like up there. Like this is one of like, I will dare say, one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. So like me saying this to somebody else is like, hey, listen to this. And they're like, I guess I'll listen to it. And then when they do, they're like, oh my God, it is the greatest album I've ever heard, and then they can push it on to someone else, and then it just keeps like, I don't know, it just, I'm glad that everybody shared it like they did.
Right.
And just so other people can enjoy it too.
So they know what they're missing out on.
Exactly.
One of our guests made that point, that he was like, I like criticism because at the very least it lets me know about the things I'm missing out on that I would have never known about. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point.
I like that. That is a good point.
Now everyone knows about this performance of Hamlet in Nebraska.
Just think about it. It's got to be happening somewhere.
An apt comparison, I think. I mean, we're nearing the end here where you'll make your case, but I'm also wondering, I mean, is this representative of the type of music you usually listen to, or is there something about this album that defines your musical taste, or is that to try and define your musical taste, would that be being kind of reductive?
Yeah, the last one. but my musical taste is everywhere. I usually listen to a lot of hip hop, a lot of rap. I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan. But then I also listen to Motown, and I may like dabble in some rock here and there. I'm trying to get into country. I'm trying.
Casey Musgraves. Gotta listen to Casey Musgraves and Dolly Parton.
Okay. Oh yeah, Dolly Parton. Of course. Yeah. But like, I want to get into like the deep cuts of like country and stuff
I'll
like
share.
that.
I got some good stuff for you.
Okay, great. Oh, I'm so glad I said that. But this album is different than what I would usually listen to, because it is so like philosophical and so heady and so like psychedelic pop, I guess. And like, you can't put a genre on this album. It's so many different things. And usually I'm like, oh, let me put on some hip hop, or let me put on some R&B. Usually I'm like, let me put on Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
Right, genre is sort of a reductive. It's reductive by nature.
It's super limiting, and I also feel like, I mean, genres, I think I don't think they were invented specifically for this, but in the music business, I feel like it enables record companies to be able to put artists in specific boxes so they can sell it. Like, yeah, right. I mean, and I feel like even like the Grammys. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. Oh, boo! Tomato. I can't do that.
It's just like all the labeling of the categories feels like, and again, I mean, I don't think this is a hot take here, but I feel like even the Grammy Awards come across as super racist because like black artists are only in like the urban categories, and I'm making quotation marks for urban there, but it's just. I like that you say like there's Frank Ocean. Like, he just doesn't. Where do you put him? Because he and that's how, I don't know. I feel like all music should be that way, because even within genres, like I'm a big rock guy. Like listening to Pearl Jam is not the same as listening to Metallica. They are not. They're not the same, but they both get considered to be rock. Just because of, that's the box that they can put them in. So
yeah,
I don't know if either of you listened to Moses Sumney, but he's got this really great album out. I think from like 2 years ago. I actually can't remember what the title is, but I was reading an interview with him, and he said something about how people always called his music R&B because he's a young black man singing, like kind of truly singing from the heart, and in a kind of in a very expansive way. And he goes, but I don't consider my music R&B. I think R&B is a flavor in what has like influenced. He was saying this. R&B was a flavor of what had influenced him as an artist, but there were a bunch of other things in that stew. And I think about that all the time because we can't put a limit on all the things that are inside of us speaking in some way through us, I think.
I will say, a few years ago, there was one Grammy Awards that I enjoyed watching because, did you see the one that Alicia Keys hosted? Where it was just, she like totally changed the format of the award show. Like, sometimes she'd just be like sitting at her piano and she'd play something, and then it would just transition to something else, or she'd like have a conversation with someone. Like, it was just this very informal, we're all hanging out listening to music. And I was like, it was weird, but then I was taken by it because it felt so much less stuffy for award shows. She was just like, hey, we're all just playing music here, and I'm the one hosting.
Oh, I would have loved that. Oh man.
Yeah, it was good.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
And then briefly, one little thing I want to say too, because one of your other albums, which even though we're technically recording these out of order, but I can tell the listeners this now because they will have already heard this album.
Yeah.
I think that Frank Ocean is also a huge, in some ways, influence on SZA. Because specifically on Channel Orange, he has the song Forrest Gump. And then within the SZA album, though I can't remember which song where she's singing about Forrest Gump. I think it's Doves
She
in the
mentions
Wind.
it, yeah.
Yeah, and just I don't know, the sort of like the fact that they're both I feel like they're both experimenting with sound in some ways,
Very
but
much.
also like very personal and very direct with their lyrics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think timeline-wise, they came out. Control came out a few years after, or Control came out 2017.
One
year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was really. I mean, I think they are contemporaries for sure. It seems like they're sort of in the same circles and working with a lot of the same people, which is exciting. You like to see good people.
They've both worked with Beyonce, so you know.
Yeah.
So Kishia, before Tyler reviews the scoreboard and to examine your case, do you have a final case for our listeners about why Frank Ocean's Blonde is the perfect album?
It's just so minimal, but so much. You can strip a song down from its 808s and its basses and hype men, and you can do this with this album and still have gold.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's so concise too. That was good. That was really good.
I'm going to give you an extra 60 point boost for that. Just for 60 points, baby.
All right, Tyler. Let's review the scoreboard and see how Kishia did here.
So working backwards with those 60 points I just gave you for a real mic drop of a conclusion there. Well done. And then just before that, I had given you 25 points for the memory. Talking about it creating memories in you that you never even had. And I said that memory in the moonlight. You gave us a few extra points. So thank you for, we'll say 30 points that you gave us.
Yeah.
And then I gave you 90 points for floating into the unknown on Siegfried, which I think is a great image for what you're experiencing that song, I think. Before that was 700 points for that text you sent to James, your boyfriend. You got 700 points for that.
Yes.
Man, I'm gonna remember that. Take a leaf out of that book someday. 10 points for it's coming like something new. This was something you were talking about, how this was like a new sound to you. 2016 points for living up to the hype, because it totally did in the year of 2016. And then your first points on the board were 3 Hollywood handshakes for Cake.
Those blue eyes.
Your love of Cake.
Those blue eyes.
Blue eyes. And then with the cupcake that you gave Michael for his 60 point, for his 60-second review, that's where the board stands.
Now I want a cupcake. I just want to put that out there. But
oh yeah, me too. Michael, the points are on the board. You've heard Kishia's argument. I think she did a bang up job. Just rock solid argument. What do you say? Is Blonde by Frank Ocean a perfect album?
Oh, it definitely is.
And there we have it.
It's perfect.
Decidedly goes to 11. I would say
it goes all the way to 11. And this was really this is one I cannot encourage people who haven't listened to this album enough. Just put some headphones on, listen to this whole thing front to back. It's a journey. Do it.
It's a good headphone album.
Excellent
headphone album.
Yes, it's made for headphones. Yes.
Well, Kishia, thank you so much for being with us. This was, I mean, you know, well, if you don't know, you're one of my favorite people, and I've never gotten to talk with you about music before, so like this was
Yes,
actually,
this was so nice. I love
yeah.
this so much. I love you guys. I love you,
We
Michael. I
love
love you,
you.
Tyler. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I love music, and I just listen to all of your podcasts, and
Oh.
I can't wait to listen to this and cringe at the sound of my voice. Yay!
It doesn't get easier. Editing these episodes does not get easier.
So, Tyler, what have we chosen as the standout track for this album?
There could have been any of them. Truly,
Yeah,
it could have been any
like
song on this album. All of them are just such high level, crafted with such quality. But I knew that it had to be this one. After my first listen through of the album, we chose Self Control as our standout track.
Yes.
And it gives me goosebumps. I'm the kind of person that like I will very often get goosebumps from music, but this one just rocked me. You cannot listen to this song and that it's sweeping. The scope of it is it's both universal and like deeply, deeply personal. I think it's such a this is a banger. It's a banger through and through.
And he uses all those effects. So, I mean, sometimes I think when artists, you put effects on vocals or instruments, it makes it seem more, I don't know, like electronic or something, but it just, I don't know, it just adds to the like hauntingness of the song.
Yeah. I love when it first come on, it's like poolside combo about your summer last night. And then it just drops. And it's just him and his beautiful voice. And I'm like, oh, this is beautiful.
It's unexpected. Every song in this album, but this one in particular, you just do not see it coming and it hits you like a truck.
Yeah.
Well, then we're gonna let you all listen to a little Self Control, and I guess we'll see you next week.
Yes, we will. So long.
Bye.